We are live. Come on in, one and all. We do have a very, very special live stream for you today, this Tuesday afternoon, July the 2nd. We are here today with the one and only Rich Baris of the People's Pundit. Rich is busy crunching the numbers, getting all the front lines look at the fallout from the debacle on Thursday night, and he's here today to give us the latest on the damage that really is coming out of that. And Rich has graciously made himself available to answer your questions as well. Unfortunately, as many of you know, our super chats have been disabled by YouTube's demonetizing us, but no worries. Just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. That's fight.turleytalks.com. Sign up for any level of support you like, and you have an instant access to our private virtual platform where you can ask Rich your questions. So just click on that link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. Sign up on any level of support, and we'll answer your questions here on this live stream. Also, you've seen the headlines like this one from Forbes the other week. The Fed is quietly admitting gold is replacing the dollar. Have you seen that? And you know why, right? It's because more and more nations are starting to turn away from the dollar as the world's reserve currency. And instead, central banks are gobbling up gold like never before. That's why the price of gold is expected to continue to climb. So that's why we have as one of our wonderful friends and sponsors, the amazing company Goldco, because they're patriots just like us who want to help you and guide you into how to get into precious metals completely tax-free and penalty-free. In fact, if you click on that link below right now, you can get your very own absolutely free gold and silver kits, an amazing free resource that shows you step-by-step how to get into precious metals, even if your money's still in a retirement account like an IRA or a 401k. And just to show you how awesome the patriots at Goldco are, the best part is that you may actually already qualify to get up to $10,000 in free silver. 10 grand in free silver, gang. I told you they're the best. So what are you waiting for? Get in on the action by clicking on that link below or going to turleytalkslikesgold.com. That's turleytalkslikesgold.com and get your free gold and silver kit today. All right, we are honored to have with us once again the great Rich Baris, the People's Pundit. You got to click on the links below and subscribe to Rich's numerous channels, definitely his YouTube channel. Go on over to Rumble, subscribe to his Rumble channel, check out his Twitter feed. I check it out daily or hourly every day. He is awesome. Rich will not say this. He's a humble guy, so I'm going to. Rich is considered by far one of the single best, if not the best, polling analysts out there, bar none. Okay. He is the man. And that's why you don't want to just subscribe to his channels. Gang, you definitely want to do what I've done. You want to become a member of his locals community. Just all you have to do is click on that link below or go to peoplespundit.locals.com. That's peoplespundit.locals.com. You will be on the front lines of the best, and I mean the best, as they say in Nacho Libre, polling data and analysis out there. Plus, he's an awesome rock guitar player, and that's probably the most important attribute of them all. Rich, welcome, my friend. Great to see you, as always.
And I appreciate that intro. Thanks for having me, as always. Thanks.
Oh, yeah.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, you deserve it. My heavens, you work so hard, and it's amazing. The work you do is just so consistently. The quality is amazing. Look, before we get into the polling, I'm just curious. I mean, you're a student of politics. Can you just give us your assessment of how significant that decision was yesterday, coming down from the Supreme Court, basically giving Trump, was, as far as the left is concerned, making the president king now, giving Trump broad executive and presumed immunity. We're now getting word they're delaying the July sentencing date in Manhattan. I mean, for you, how significant was that decision?
I really wish the left in this country would take the time to learn and read. I mean, that's not all of them, of course, but, certainly the talking heads, the mouthpieces, the surrogates, I guess Joe Biden could just drone strike the Supreme Court. I saw from one person, and they put this person on TV sometimes. It's just crazy because, of course, that is not at all what we're talking about here. And it would just be a better situation for all of us if they would stop being so ignorant, right? So this is very significant, folks, because we get wrapped up in Trump. Certainly the left does. But I'd like to tell my viewers that this was about voter sovereignty. If they were to neuter the presidency by the president constantly, he or she looking over their shoulder, what's going to happen to me when I get out of office? I can't do this. I'll be blackmailed. I can't do that. I'll be prosecuted. This was the last, first of all, it's only ever been the only office in the executive branch where you can enact your will, and hopefully they will carry out the agenda that the sovereign voter wants them to carry out. The House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate has abdicated their duty to conduct oversight over the executive branch, over any branch of government. All the FBI director has to say is, I can't comment on an ongoing investigation. And all the CIA and the rest of them have to say is, I can't disclose sources and methods. And then it's gone. And there's never any accountability or responsibility. The presidency is literally the last and only place where the sovereign voter, the idea of voter sovereignty in this country is the cornerstone of it all. And I think that's why I really love public polling the way that I do, because it really is all about that. And if we cannot exercise our sovereignty as the voter, then this is all for nothing. This is a show. And in fact, if the Supreme Court, and I'm not being hyperbolic here, if the Supreme Court did not rule as they did, and they pleasantly surprised me by laying out a lot of guidelines that went a lot further than people thought, if they did not do that, then the presidency as we know it would have been destroyed. And that would have been it. So it's not hyperbolic to say the Supreme Court saved the presidency last week. They saved the presidency from fanatics who don't care about the future of the country.
Right. We were talking about before our live stream, and I was listening to your live stream yesterday, Inside the Numbers, and when I was going for one of my walks, I like to say one of my runs, but it's probably 80% walk. That's what almost made me kind of stammer, because I didn't even think about it that way. But you said that yesterday. You said that what the Supreme Court did, and that's how our government should work, right? This judicial branch saved the executive branch.
They did.
The judicial branch rose to the occasion. We were able to sideline the three radicals who just, it seemed to me that minority, the dissenting opinion was so bizarre.
It's like they didn't read the majority
exactly
at all.
I don't think they did. I don't think they did. Well, or at least they gave some talking points, some marching orders, as it were, for the Kool-Aid drinkers. But yes, I think most constitutional scholars, my namesake Jonathan Turley for sure, were very, very happy about the decision went far and beyond what anyone was actually estimating.
Because it was the right move. Yeah. And I think back in times like this, I like to take a step back. In times like this, especially if I'm analyzing and people are wondering, what's Rich going to say about this? And I would say to Trump supporters, don't even be excited that this decision helps your guy.
Yeah.
If this was Bernie Sanders as the president, if this was Barack Obama, I would be 100% opposed. If the roles are reversed, 100% opposed to Republicans doing what Democrats are doing to Trump. And it's like, eventually Trump is going to be gone. Trump is not going to be around forever. The world will carry on. The country, for better or for worse, and depending on the outcome of the election, will carry on without him. And we have to live with the rubble. We have to pick up the pieces of the dismantled institutions, the rules and norms, the rule of law, the presumption of innocence, all of this that they have shredded, Dr. Steve, shredded in the name of trying to stop Donald Trump. It's so shallow, narrow-minded. I never want to hear them called forward-thinking or progressive again. They are narrow-minded little people who are leading us down the primrose path to authoritarianism. And they don't even care. And it's unbelievable to me.
It is. It is
Don't
unbelievable.
You have children? Don't you have do you have grandchildren, or do you want to have grandchildren?
Actually, no. A lot of them don't. We've talked about that.
I guess to some of them, right? They never
they're not having kids anymore. That's the thing. That's why they're trying to get our kids.
Some kill them. But
no, you got it. Yeah,
it's crazy. Yeah. Come on.
What do you think? And I love the way you framed it. You framed it big picture. This is about the institution. This isn't about any particular person. Given that, what do you think are going to be the consequences going forward with Jack Smith's cases, the Fulton
Yeah.
County case? Are they more? I'm hearing more or less they're
They're done.
DOA at this point. Yeah,
They're done. This is what, to me, and I'm not a lawyer. I'm just saying from what talking to different lawyers, and then also there is a political calculation, and the lawyers I like to talk to always try to give it to me in the most legalese way, and this is what I think as a lawyer. But of
yeah,
course, they're living in a dream world, and there are certainly political calculations to these things. And Jack Smith, of course, I mean, he destroyed Chevron trying to go after
yeah.
Trump. He
There you go.
destroyed one of the cornerstones of
Yeah,
their
isn't that
achievements. He
amazing?
didn't
Yeah,
care.
yeah,
So now at some point they're gonna have to take stock and say, did this do more damage than it was ever supposed to achieve for us? And I think the answer to that is clearly yes. Not only in public opinion, but to things like that, for instance. And I do think that there is again a political because the Supreme Court went so far. There were went so far as to lay out standards, the presumption standard that they laid out. I mean, it's so huge. The president
the
is
bar
immune
is
to official
very
acts,
high. Yeah,
very
yeah,
high. For people who don't know, it's very simple. For official acts, they're immune. For unofficial acts, you would give them the presumption that those were still made within the official capacity.
right,
Because in Jack Smith's entire case, specifically, so with Fannie Willis, you have to tell the jury that you know what was going in the mind of
right,
what was going on in the mind of Donald Trump, his
right.
state of mind. And the justices said, you can't do that. He's the president. And there are too many things that you're not factoring in. And
Right.
he's got to consider. And maybe you have the luxury to sit back and do that. But the president, no matter who it is, does not. And then also there were warnings in there to the lower court. Yeah, it's remanded, but don't bring us this crap again. And people
Yeah.
who don't want to know, people who don't read Supreme Court opinions very often, I do. I think I'm fascinated by them. That's the not so veiled way for the majority of the court to say, if you send something like this up to us again, the next
Mhm.
one isn't going to be so nice. And I remember, Neil Gorsuch with all the immigration, you had these like district level judges putting nationwide injunctions on Donald Trump's immigration policy. And once Neil Gorsuch said, this is squarely within the scope of presidential authority, and we are tired of settling this for you. When he did that, it ended.
It ended.
It
It was
ended because they know what that means. You're
Yeah.
going to be embarrassed,
Yeah.
humiliated,
Yeah.
and they're going to make make an example out of you.
Yeah. Yeah. Wow, awesome. That's perfect, Rich. Let's talk about the state of the race here. I want to frame this in a sort of a threefold triangular structure because I learned this from you. And so I figured it'd be pretty easy
Mhm.
here. But
Yeah.
as I understand it from being a member of your locals group, there really are three, not just one. It's not just the debate. There were three dynamics that are working together
Yeah.
to cumulatively, in effect, destroy Biden. So you've got the backlash against the lawfare, as you were just
Yeah.
talking about. You've got his record, his actual presidential record that is just, I mean, it is just killing him. And then you've got the debate debacle. So let's do it in reverse order. Let's start with the debate debacle. You're a pollster, you're an analyst, you're actually conducting, as I understand it, a poll right now.
We are. Yeah. It's wrapping up.
Just give it to us, man. How bad was this debate for Biden?
Typically, doing what I do, any psephologist will tell you when you look back at a debate, they're not all that predictive. There's a mixed record there, and Alan Lichtman is an idiot, and he cherry picks. I'm sorry, but it's true. He's the keys model.
Yeah.
He it's very subjective. He cherry picks what he thinks. Well, Obama lost the debates. No, he didn't. He lost the first debate. He won the second and third debate. I don't know what you're talking about. George Bush lost the debates against John Kerry. No, he lost the first one.
Right?
He won the second and third one. Right.
Yeah.
So he makes this stuff up as he goes. but at best, there really is a mixed record. And the two examples people always use in this industry is more recent one, Ronald Reagan saying, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? It was one and only debate that year, and it's thought to have had a pretty big impact on the election. Some people would argue, and I would agree with at least some of what they say. And then you have the 1960 debate between Kennedy and Nixon. If you were listening on the radio, you thought Kennedy won. I mean, Nixon won. He was much more well versed on the policy and everything that was going on, of course, because he was vice president. And if you were watching on TV, you thought that Kennedy won because Nixon was perspiring and he looked awkward, and Kennedy was sharp, right? So those are the two. Other than that, it's always very difficult to say a debate had a huge impact. Here's why this one did. All right. People have been seeing the memes and the jokes. What happened last Thursday is that the country who are normies, who really truly are persuadable, they couldn't hide it from them anymore. And then even their own party, who the media was lying to, and they were duped. I mean, just folks, put it into context. A week before, the New York Times, the Associated Press, the NBC News were all running stories saying that these are cheap fakes and they're not real, right? So these people even feel deceived and duped now. And while most of them, if they voted, still would vote for Biden, the damage, well, that's not true. The damage is some might throw their vote away, third party, and some may not vote at all because they cannot vote for a mentally handicapped person. This was beyond he had a bad night. This was, oh my God, Republicans are telling the truth. The president is senile. I'm scared. So we're hearing from people that this is not funny. This isn't a joke. And yeah, while people can meme and they understand all that, at the core of it, if they're serious thinkers who are tuning in now and are deciding what, is going on with the presidential race, they already tended to favor Trump because of one of the other parts of the pyramid you were talking about. I mean, the records, it's an A-B contrast, and they were picking Trump, period. They're picking A. Right. But then now it's on top of that, we have this. So the last poll we did tighten a little bit, and it looked Trump still had a lead. This poll is ugly. And there's only one we had since the last poll, the convictions and the debate. Those are the two major events we had. Didn't seem to be any impact after the convictions whatsoever. So what changed? What did it? It's the debate. And we can tell from what people are saying. This is going to probably be the worst result for Joe Biden that we have ever published. It's bad. It is very, very bad. And I understand there are going to be some groups that are saying, I don't know, I'm undecided. Maybe I'm even going to vote for Trump. And some of them will go home, But right now, for an incumbent president, folks, to potentially be under 40% of the vote in a national poll, I don't know yet. Don't twist my arm. But in some of the days that we tracked this week, he was at like 39. Then he popped back up to like 41. This is ugly. All at a time when Donald Trump, for the first time in the last, it's been, I guess, 6 months, a little bit more maybe, where Donald Trump, for the first time ever in the history of our polling, has hit or exceeded 50% of the vote. So statistically significant. That's not happened since he started running in our polling. It has not happened since his the advent of Trump in 2016, 2015. Really, it has not been the case. We've never found this. So here we have Trump hovering around 50% and Joe Biden in deep trouble. If I had a ballpark it, I would say this is probably going to be somewhere in the neighborhood of Trump plus 6 to 8 points. It's bad. It's really bad. Again, quote me on it. We'll find out what exactly it is when it comes. But you've been doing this as long as I have. You learn how to glean things from the numbers. This is. I honestly. I don't know what I would do if I was Joe Biden. You're going to take it now.
Stunning.
You're taking it now.
Stunning. Now that and I know this just for our audience. So that would be corroborated by the CNN poll that just dropped today, the national poll, which is Trump up by 6. New York Times poll that dropped just the other day. I think they had in a 5-way race. I think Trump got up to 8 plus 8, something like that. And then what was the other one? There was another one that had him up like 5.2. You said it's a very good poll. And
Harvard Harris too. Also,
Harvard Harris came out. Yeah.
And Atlas Intel.
Atlas Intel. Yeah.
And I hate to say this, but Atlas Intel is the only poll that was slightly more accurate than us in the 2020 national poll. They don't poll states, right? Slightly, and by slightly I mean 0.2%.
Wow.
So I mean a coin toss on who would get that.
That's Jack Nicholson in The Shining. Just 2 square inches per
Yes.
second. That's it. That's all.
Really kind of
the only
burns because you're looking at the popular vote and you're like, wow, I'm going to nail it, And you're
Yeah.
looking at the aggregate on RCP and you're like, none of these jokers are coming close. And then you
No.
find out Atlas, it did it again because they did
Yeah.
it to us in 16 too. And I'm like, you SOBs, they're good. They're a very good polling firm and good for them.
Yeah. Yeah.
Good for
So
them.
they're all showing the same
But they
thing.
don't poll states though for people.
Oh, okay. Right. Right. So it's only national. They only do
As
that.
far as I know, the only one that's really publicized is national. They may have state polling out there, but it's not widely circulated. I wish they would. I wish they
Yeah.
would do it.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, their methodology seems to be amazing. So,
It sounds,
so in effect, you're saying I mean, not in the way that any Biden supporter would want, but in effect, we did see history. It looks like on Thursday night, something akin to 1969, probably even it'll turn out to be even far more consequential than 60 or 80.
I do think that this one is going to go down in the history books as one that they're going to make. It'll probably be the strongest case for debates mattering again. And you may even see like a re-emphasis on the importance of debates after this industry began to come to terms and come to grips with the idea that maybe we overhype these things, right? But it is not simply the case that somebody had a better performance and that somebody delivered their vision better, right? I mean, all the things we kind of like obsess over and talk about when we talk about debates, this was very different. This was the remainder of the country who didn't know already, understanding and coming to grips with the fact that the media lied to them. The Democratic Party lied to them. Forget about the emperor has no clothes.
Yeah.
The emperor has dementia.
Yeah, the emperor.
A problem.
It's so funny. I'll share this with you. So when we're watching Thursday night, I was following you. You were on my Twitter feed that I was following, and a few others. And then something weird happened with locals in Rumble. I don't know what the heck was going on there.
I don't believe in coincidences.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, the independent content creators can't get on the independent content.
Exactly. That was weird. Well, I mean, you pivoted well. You went right to Twitter. That was awesome. And I could tell it was happening to everyone right around the same time. I was on my couch, had my laptop, was watching it, had all the different commentators. Like, I don't know. I think it was probably about a half an hour, 40, maybe around their first break, 40 minutes, 45. The consensus was this isn't going to come down to who answered what when. It doesn't come down to Trump, hammering. I mean, it was, again, great commentary, hammering the southern border when he needed to, answering the abortion issue perfectly like he had to.
That was perfect.
Yeah, no, he gave it. Like you said, that's textbook for any Republican right now. But right around that time, like 45 minute mark, it was this amazing consensus where everyone was saying the story here is the world is seeing what we've been seeing these last 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Everyone is seeing it. Yeah. And it is stunning to them. I mean, like you said, the normies, I think, who they're not nerds like we are. They're checked out. They're living their lives. God bless them. I wish we could. We were actually just talking about that earlier. Just wish we could
do it too.
Yeah. Exactly. Not have the weight of the world on our shoulders and all that. And they just happened to tune in just to see what was going on, because CNN is with the quick little headlines that they would see in their browser when they fire up the computers. CNN's telling us everything's hunky-dory. Trump, the evil, orange man, is going to get put behind bars. Oh, good. That must be good. And then they tune in. And it literally, I mean, I've heard one of the refrains that I've heard to describe it was jaw-dropping. Just, they couldn't believe it. But what makes, again, your analysis so awesome is this is just where it begins in terms of what's weighing Biden down, because you've been talking about, I mean, it's not just the debate, it's his job performance.
Yeah.
I mean, it's his approval numbers. Can you just flesh that out just real briefly, just in terms of how that's crushing him?
So he's already having issues and struggling with how he's handling his job. The White House always seems to think, is if you'll ask them, they'll say he did great things. The problem is a communications problem, and we're just not conveying it to the American people. That's not true. The problem is that they do know what he did and they don't like it. It's not popular.
Right.
He is not a popular president, and his positions are not popular. And in this poll that we're doing, wait until people see the trust to handle issues. Who do you trust more to handle X, Y, Z? Donald Trump or Joe Biden? Trump is clobbering him, and that is one of his biggest issues. By the way, the number one issue is inflation and cost of living. And of course, they trust Trump to handle this issue by a massive margin. So they have this.
I'm sorry, Rich. You sure it's not saving democracy like Fox News poll told us a couple of weeks back?
These people are out of their minds. That was clearly an outlier. Look, they had urban America tied, and they had Biden winning
the rural vote.
Yeah, I literally sent their polling editor who asked me about our methodology before they covered a poll, the Rust Belt poll, which they did cover. I'll give them that. I sent back an email to them and I said, are you sure you guys didn't mislabel your area demographic? Like, you need to check. This is bad. And if you did not, this needs to be published with a caveat. This is a joke, and you're going to be made fun of and humiliated until
as we are doing now.
But they were widely criticized by even left-wing polling experts on Twitter. They CNN. They were like, this doesn't really make sense at all. So yeah, I guess, that's part of, you just brought up that issue, preserving democracy. A year and a half ago, even if we would have asked people, who do you trust more to preserve democracy, preserve and protect democracy, Joe Biden would have had this massive lead on that. But because of the lawfare, which is the other side of this issue,
there you go.
Because of the lawfare, they overstepped. And now too many voters see him as the threat to democracy and the lawfare. It's like a very, very common sense story to tell. Your presidency sucks. You're unpopular. Your policies stink. The country's hurting. And you're going after the guy who was a better president than you. Everyone thinks is a better president than you. The majority does. And wants to reelect him again. So obviously you're persecuting him and trying to put him in prison because you can't win. It's such an easy story to tell. Now that issue, if it's not tied, Trump has a slight edge. It's unbelievably how they forfeited this hand. Because they are, again, because they're fanatics, and fanatics don't think rationally. They don't think about what the damage will be. Will the true blowback be? They're all metro people. If you see where they eat for lunch, guys, I know if you're watching this show, Dr. Steve does a great job explaining to you how the ruling class works. They really thought that they would be tea and crumpets, pinky, in the air, appalling. He's a felon. Meanwhile, they've been telling the country for decades, give a rapist a second chance. Give a murderer a second chance. So all of a sudden, they're stunned that the country doesn't care about a felony. You're the one who did this. Make your bed. You made your bed. Now sleep.
Oh, and that's
Same
like
thing with Joe Biden.
That's the story of it all. That's the amazing thing. Even with the primaries, the way they rigged the primary, they talk about the people who have to sleep in the bed they made. Gang, if you want to ask Rich your questions, just click on that link below. Remember, unfortunately, we've been demonetized by YouTube. So just go to fight.turleytalks.com, click on that link, sign up for any level of support you like, whatever works for you. You have instant access to our private virtual platform where you can ask Rich your questions. He's very kindly here to answer that. Yeah, let's kind of close that loop here with the blowback against the weaponized legalism, the lawfare. Obviously, it's taking away an issue that was to their advantage a few months ago, but it also seems to be the heart of what's happening in terms of this realignment among non-white working class voters that you were the first one to be seeing. And people need to know that. I name drop one of the things that got grilled on me when I was a PhD student is you've got to make sure you cite. You got to cite. You got to cite.
Yeah.
So my name dropping is my oral form of citation, and I'll just
Appreciate that.
never forget when you started talking about this, and this was months ago. This was like at least 6 months ago that you were seeing more than that.
More. It's been
More, not non-white working class
Yeah.
beginning to move over to Trump. How much has the blowback of the lawfare played into that?
I got mocked by Mediaite for saying that the lawfare made Trump relatable among non-white voters.
Right.
I have thousands and thousands of interviews with non-white voters and filled with examples of them telling us just that.
Okay.
This system has been like this for a long time. It's just that white people it didn't happen to them, and then so they didn't really care. Now it's happening to Trump, and everyone gets to see it. He's our boy. It's like, get slapped with a felony, you're in the fam, like, and now you know what I'm dealing with, and you can be our champion. Like this is. And Mediaite seems to think that was like a joke and that was funny. They seem to think that was a joke and funny. Tell me you're a stupid white liberal privileged idiot with no black friends without telling me you're a stupid liberal white privileged idiot with no black friends. Because only a stupid liberal privileged idiot with no black friends would think that's funny. How many minutes or days or time and seconds have you got clocked in an American ghetto in this country? This is how they feel. And they were ignored even by their own party for a very long time. And now they made a billionaire white guy from Queens relatable to them. And if you think about it, it kind of makes sense. He's always been a pop culture icon, even in those communities. And they always kind of like had if you're successful, you made it. If you're like a Trump, you're the man, you got it. You got it down. If you're Donald, if you're like Donald Trump, and everyone wants to aspire to have their name in gold like Trump, man, he's the dog, so it's an easy transition. And I don't understand how people are having a hard time comprehending this. And then there's this other element to this, which is, there's only two groups in this country that really have been trending Democratic: white college educated voters and seniors to some degree. Now, they have been polling more Democratic than they vote. Like the New York Times poll in 2020 had Biden winning seniors 50-46 or 48-42, something like that. Only about 6 points, and he did not. Trump won seniors. So Trump tends to do better with them than he polls. That being said, we saw it as well. And there was this feeling, Stevie, like this won't happen in this country. And this lawfare is just a show. And then when they took it that far, you had the boomers and above going, oh man, no, this really is happening. Like it took them, they had to see it with their own eyes. They had to hear it with their own ears. They didn't really believe that it would ever go down this road. And now that it has, it's turned a lot of them back off from the Democrats. Then what people would say, why do they want to even vote Democrat in the first place? They're in the golden years of their life. They're adverse to serious change. They don't want to hear about a guy who's a wrecking ball coming into DC and smashing the status quo. They want calm before the end, not calm before the storm. That's a very human nature thing to understand. And even though they tend to be more, conservative and vote Republican, times change, times change.
I think we were talking about via Twitter, the European elections that are going on, particularly in France. Marine Le Pen is getting her best support from the under 30 vote because, as Matt Goodwin said, they're all de-aligned from the establishment politics, where the older votes, even in Europe, the older voters, they're more aligned. They're more like, look, I've always voted this way. There's a tradition that they still kind of cling on to, whereas the younger people are like, forget it. Let's try something brand new here. And so I think we're seeing something comparable with Trump as well.
For sure.
Give us the map here. And then I'd love if we can to just get some questions from our audience, but we're seeing Trump. I mean, as I understand it, please correct me. We're seeing Trump basically sweeping the swing states at this point. I mean, he's at the lowest is he's going to be tied or up 1 or 2, but I mean, the latest poll that just came out with Pennsylvania was pretty impressive, up 4. We got him,
had him up 3.
Marquette, yeah,
which is a very liberal poll, by the way.
That's true.
Poll.
That's true.
Yeah.
We got him up. I mean, that Des Moines Register poll in Iowa, my heavens, that 18. I mean, that's
Steve. Month and a half before this poll comes out, we have Trump up by 15 points in Iowa and get completely mocked by it. We have
you had a 14
in Ohio, 15 in Iowa. A month and a half later, the great Ann Seltzer puts out Trump plus 18, and everyone's hair is on fire, and they realize it's true. You know what's,
you feel like that kid in school. Wait, that was me. I did that. Don't look at
this job can be, my friend. And it's nobody is ever big enough to, like, especially so-called men, they think they're men. Yeah. No one's ever big enough to say, you know what? I was wrong. I was wrong, Rich. Sorry about that. Hey, guys, that's right. I attacked people's Pundit.
Job, man.
It's a thankless job.
I know, and it is true. I mean, we're. I almost get. I'm speaking to the choir here. Approaching elections, I almost start having panic attacks. I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna have to deal with. If it doesn't go well, I'm gonna have to be talking people off the ledge.
Yep.
Versus all these people telling me I need to go and jump off a ledge,
Yeah.
It's like,
it's not a great part of the job, brother.
It's not a great. The emotions are so high, but hopefully we're not gonna have that problem in November. We'll see. The good news, I think, is we all know 2020 happened. And everybody recognizes that, and they recognize that was not pollsters' fault. That was it's faults beyond our stars, but it looks like I don't want to be complacent here, but it looks like we're getting into the possible too big to rig arena. What other? I mean, if you got him up 18 in Iowa, sweeping forget the Sun Belt at this point, sweeping the swing states. I mean, what else are we taught? What else is in play? You and I were talking about. I mean, dude, New England, Maine. Yeah. I mean, New Hampshire, Virginia, Minnesota. You were talking about New Mexico yesterday.
The numbers are the numbers.
Mexico.
The numbers are the numbers, folks. I mean, when you're looking at the national numbers, and of course, we have state level data as well. Now, take the state of New Mexico, for instance. In our new poll, Trump is probably going to be ballpark around 47% of the Hispanic vote without leaners. All right. I actually think maybe Trump's going to inch ahead here soon if this keeps up, which is unbelievable. Why does that matter? Well, first of all, we got him at like 37% of the Hispanic vote in 2020, and he got about that. So we were right on. In New Mexico, the white vote split in 2020. It did not in 2016. Trump won the white vote, but he got clobbered with Hispanics. In 2020, he did better with Hispanics, but the white vote split between him and Biden. So because they're 37, upwards 40% of the electorate, there's a small Asian population and Native American population, but for the most part, Biden's entire 10-point margin in the state of New Mexico was due to his margin among Hispanics, which was weaker than it was nationally. Okay, so people need to understand this. Trump did better and does better with Hispanics in New Mexico than he does in the nation overall. Twice, not once, twice. Wow. So if past this prologue, and he's doing this well nationally with Hispanics, let's say he just ties Biden among Hispanics, Dr. Charlie. Let's just say he ties. All right. And then the margin with whites goes back a few points his way, which very much appears to be the case. And he wins whites. That is going to be a nail biter. And Biden is going to have to rely on what is 3 to 5% of the electorate, giving him such an overwhelming margin. Wow. It breaks a coin toss tie. That's how close New Mexico would be if our numbers, and I'm sure they are correct. The state of Maine, I've been telling people, and I was talking to you about this before we went on live on air. Hillary Clinton got her, kicked in when she was 32 to 35% of the white working class vote. Joe Biden inched a little higher in the high 30s in 2020. And that's how he held on. Tiny little amounts in states like Wisconsin, if you put aside the scams and the shenanigans, right? So if he can no longer do that, these states become, first of all, the traditional battleground states become unwinnable for him. And I'm not the only one who is trying to explain this to people. The leftists and one of the authors of the Emerging Democratic Majority on his Substack weekly is writing columns about how this is a major problem. And now it's not just the white working class, it's the non-white working class. He's on the page too. But that's when you look at states like Maine. And just to give you, let me just make sure I get this number correct right now. 25% ballpark is where Joe Biden is at with the white working class vote right now in this poll. 25, 26%. And granted, we're asking different scenarios. Just Trump versus Biden. Who would you pick? Trump, Biden, and generically someone else. Trump, Biden, JFK, Jill Stein, Chase Oliver, if that was the case in their state, their particular state. He isn't budging. He's not cracking 26%. This is a massive problem. It is not even mathematically possible for him to win the Electoral College at that point. He would need to win white college-educated voters by more than he did in 2020. And his problem is that his margin with them has slipped. Trump has regained some ground with them. And then you got to look around the map and say, where else would this affect? Where else would these margins? And it's not just race, folks, it's ethnicity, right? So you have a lot of French Canadians, French Catholics, cultural, right? In Maine, in states like Maine, in states where you're from, in Connecticut, tons of different ethnic Catholics. When you're looking at like that plus 18 that Ann released in Iowa, that's a disaster for the state of Wisconsin for Joe Biden, because you're talking about a blend of Norwegians and Norwegian Catholics, and there are other Scandinavian voting groups that some of them have been more Trumpy and have been trending Trumpy for a while, but you have like Finns and Swedes that are not, or tend to be much more liberal. And, that's why you have the 3 counties in northwestern Wisconsin that remain liberal and remain Democratic at the presidential level. Trump gets in the mid 40s there, low 40s there. When you're talking about numbers like this, you're talking about winning over a lot of those Scandinavians that you just didn't win before. They give you a look in 16. They shied away from you in 20. They're on the table now. I mean, this is a total disaster for Joe Biden. So when I see a poll in New Jersey, for instance, because of the non-white vote shift on top of that, you have to believe New Jersey is closer. It is. It has to be. Folks, a Trump +6 nationally is an a wipeout of epic proportions. I hate to say this, but Nate the Slimer, the idiot failed statistician from 538, he was fired from there, was right about his analysis. Maybe Biden doesn't need 4.5 points anymore, but man, he needs every bit of 4 to win the Electoral College. If Trump takes it by 2 or more, the popular vote, it's a wipeout, a total wipeout. You're talking about states nobody would have ever expected to go. And by the way, that includes Virginia again. I mean, we're throwing all these states back on the map. You don't just win Iowa by 18, folks, and then, Connecticut remains D plus 20. That's not how this works. And all of them will go together, and some of them will survive for Democrats because of their partisan voting index, how strong that partisan voting index is, how strict it is. Others will not, especially those that are more, like their voting patterns are being exacerbated by realignments, and you're just talk about being exacerbated. That shift will dramatically increase the impact of that already existing realignment, and you'll just see dominoes falling on the board.
Wow, man. Gang, if you want analysis like this every day, click on that link below or go to peoplespundit.locals.com. Peoplespundit.locals.com. Become a member of Rich's locals community. I am, and you're going to get analysis like this virtually every single day. So make sure to click on that link below. Rich, you want to take some questions here from the audience? Yeah. All right, gang. Remember, if you want to ask Rich your questions, just click on the link below or go to fight.turleytalks.com. Sign up for any level of support you like, and you have instant access to our private virtual
Yeah.
platform. You can ask Rich your questions. All right, what do we got here, Micah, Josh? All right, this is from Rich Smith, Dr. Steve, Mr. Baris. There are some polls that are deliberately inaccurate to prop up the Democratic candidate to make it appear that they're doing better than reality. Given how bad Biden is doing, should we expect these fake polls to be reported by the fake news? And if so, when will they start?
So I think you might start to see some pretty soon. I saw a leak from the Biden campaign yesterday to CBS News saying that essentially the polling in their corner has been relatively unchanged. Biden lost a point. They're basically still tied. And that is a wink wink to the pollsters that you're talking about. To set, that's a wink wink to them. That's like a green light. Like it's all right to play a little game here. But I think the consensus is what matters. And they're, for the most part, going to get even worse, I think, personally. You're going to see a rash of garbage right before Labor Day to try to set the narrative, because that Labor Day landmark or that Labor Day pivot point is still so important in the minds of these fools. They don't understand we live in the age of information now, and it doesn't work the way it did in 1988. We're not going to see this Dukakis to Bush 20-point swing. It's not going to happen. It doesn't work that way in this country anymore, and the times are very different. But they don't know that. So I would expect them around there. Those polls certainly do exist, without a doubt. The reason why I think you may get some a little bit early is because the Biden family is going to try to pull all the strings that they can to try to salvage these calls for him to be replaced, and which is a very complicated thing. It's only possible, in my opinion, under one circumstance or one scenario, but it's still, nevertheless, very difficult. And that's why I would say get ready for those deluge like before Labor Day, but probably expect some. Maybe soon. Everyone's going to want to save face, and they're going to want to show you what the state of the race is now after that debate. But as these calls, ratchet up, you're going to get friends of Biden, people who support Biden, going to their polling firms and saying, "Hey, let's get something going here. We need to try to make it
polls.
like,
Push
we
polls.
need to make it look, we need to throw the guy a line, throw him a life jacket. He's drowning out there. And that's what I think we're going to see some of that. Ironically, he still is the strongest candidate. It's insane, but he
among
is
all of them. Yeah. They don't have a bench, man.
They've don't have
no bench.
None.
It's unbelievable. America the Free, Mr. Baris, let's say Joe Biden stays in the race. Should we expect any Democrat bump in polls as we get closer to the election? Will there be any coming home for these voters?
I'm with Harry Enton on this. For the better part of a year, I've been looking at the black vote share for Donald Trump. I've been looking at the Hispanic vote share for Donald Trump. That's where the coming home needs to come from. Also, there are some who are younger. I think that many of these people, the Biden campaign's in danger of them. Forget about them coming home. It's like they don't even feel like that's their home. They can't vote for him anymore. So they may not, and they'll just abstain from voting altogether. That's the danger there. But I'm like Harry, keep waiting for this stuff to happen, and it's not happening. Wow. And it's like, when is it going to happen? Is it going to happen when he's charged with 91 felony counts? Okay, here we are. That time is come and gone. It didn't do it. Okay, finally. It's going to happen when he's convicted by a hack judge and jury. Fine. Okay. Maybe that's the point. And then that time gets here. That time comes. We rerun the numbers. It doesn't happen. Okay. Maybe it'll happen after he puts on a good debate performance. Look at what happened at the debate. So my question to people who are skeptical and are don't think that what people like Enton and I are saying. My question to you is, do you expect them to come home then? Because this is not the same thing as Bush v. Kerry. It's not the same thing as Dukakis versus Bush. We know these men. They have both been president. They both have universal name ID. There's no getting to know the country, reintroduce yourself to the country. Trump's retrospective approval rating has shot through the roof. A lot of that has been fueled by women and non-white voters. I just don't see when this is going to change. When is this going to course correct for Joe Biden? That would be my like counter question to them. I don't think it's gonna at this point. No, I think it's not. I think it's very, very unlikely. Trump is a heavy favorite at this point. I'm not saying that to get complacent, but I'm simply saying he is the favorite, and it's not really a slight favorite. It's not.
Right. Well, yeah, even Nate Silver's admitting that right now. This is not close, right? What that was his headline even before the debate.
That's what I'm saying. Like, if you really looked in the numbers of our last poll, which was like a Trump +2, if you looked in the numbers, every demographic that Joe Biden needs to make sure he carries the state of Pennsylvania, they're out the window. Forget about Michigan. I keep seeing all these different polls. Maybe you'll keep Michigan. Maybe you'll keep Wisconsin. Folks, they vote together every time. The last 8 presidential elections, and I keep bringing up 88, but it's true. That is the last time Wisconsin did not vote with Pennsylvania and Michigan. Even with tiny, tiny margins, they still have consecutively for 8 elections, and they bucked the trend in 88. They went with Dukakis, Wisconsin, and Bush got Michigan and Pennsylvania. Many people like believe that Michigan's probably the hardest for Trump this time around, but I've got to tell you, I don't know that that's the case. I don't know, because this realignment is real, and that seems to be impacting demographics that are much more impactful to Michigan, the result of Michigan. You know, like Wisconsin is whiter. It's less urban than a state like Michigan. So if Trump is doing much better in urban areas, you're not going to really see that with the white liberal. That's coming from non-whites. It's coming from working class, urban and metro voters. Populism.
Absolutely unbelievable. Again, I think I just summarize your analysis where I talk about Trump's sweet spot, where he has galvanized the rural white vote. At the same time, he has minimized the urban non-white vote for Biden. So he's galvanized the urban or the rural white vote for himself, but he's minimized those margins of the non-white urban vote for Biden. And that combination is just
it's over.
It's over.
It's unbeatable. It's unbeatable. There's like this idea out there among some Republicans who, you know, while you were saying before, like I've been talking about this non-white vote shit for the better part of a year. They're just like, influencer hacks who are like, dismissing it. No, we see this every election. No, we don't see this every election. And the truth is, Trump has been chipping away at the non-white vote for years. This just appears to be the cascading point. And you don't have to win it. You know what happens when Trump slices 3 to 4 points in Wayne County, or he's not at 40% in Allegheny, he's at 44 in Pennsylvania, Allegheny, Pennsylvania. Massive statewide damage to their total, their statewide total. Massive damage. They can't win. They cannot win like that. No chance.
Yeah, I just noticed so much of the polling analysis, and it's usually just by neophytes. They don't even know what they're doing.
They don't know what they're talking about.
It's so myopic. Oh, he's not going to win Virginia. He's not going to win Virginia. And then I listen to you. He doesn't have to. That's not the point. If they're tied, he's gonna run a route of Iowa, Michigan, Pennsylvania. Well, we know he's going to get Iowa, Wisconsin. I mean, that's
North Carolina will be 8 points.
I mean, it's just they're not reading the crosstabs, as it were, of their own electoral map. What do we got next here for Sir Baris? Terry, will Trump move to dismiss all remaining cases, citing Clarence Thomas's theory that Jack Smith is not even legally appointed?
That's a really good question. I do actually, he's a nice guy. I do speak to Trump's lawyer quite a bit, although it's some things we speak in like the more media capacity, like what can you ask him as a public question, right? And we're going to have him on the show again. He's a great guy. Will Scharf, I'm talking about, who, by the way, if you're in Missouri, is running for the Attorney General's office. If you were in the state of Missouri, you could go with the Rhino, or you could go with the guy who successfully argued for Trump in front of the Supreme Court of the United States. Personally, for me, I'm going to go with the guy who's got the life achievement that is up there with, he'll be remembered as one of the greats because of that decision. He really will be. I don't know the answer to that because I haven't spoke to him about that and had the chance to discuss that. But I will say this: he's a very aggressive guy. The whole team is. I would not be surprised if they did. And by the way, then even you could argue that the New York case is even applicable here. Certainly Georgia is, without a doubt.
Yeah,
but part of the New York case is that they made this convoluted argument that, well, we waited so long to charge him because he really was concerned about, being reelected. I mean, they did this. It was like way past the time where it was relevant or had to do with his being like an official act as president. Because they are the ones who waited, because they are the ones who made this like alternative theory of the case.
So
They
sad.
raised it up. Right. Now they opened the door to being subjected to this decision on last week. They did again.
Yeah.
They
No, I know.
made
It's so sad.
every disgusting bed that they are being forced to lie in right now. They made it. And they thought they could pressure those justices and scare those justices into the decision they wanted. That's what they thought.
And for you more so, since you are a native New Yorker. I just lived in your shadow, just about a half an hour away in Connecticut. Yeah, but dang, man, the mess they have made of that once unbelievable city. It's
actually breaks my heart.
It does. It is. It's maddening. It's my daughter's in New York right now, and it's I want her to enjoy it and to have this Manhattan experience, but it's hard when you've got vagrants, vagabonds, as it were, just everywhere. It's just, I mean, in restaurants when you're trying to eat, I mean, the smell, and it's just,
I was just gonna say, yeah.
It's just so sad. I mean, it's just anyway. Well, all right. Well, we could go on and on with. We're going to sound like old curmudgeons. My day.
The city deserves what it gets, though.
Yeah,
I mean,
no, I know. They do. They voted in.
Men. They're prosecuting the two men, and going after the two men that literally saved that city from ruin.
Yeah. No, I know. Giuliani was astonishing. That is. It was a renaissance. It was a New York. What was it? Dave Dinkins before him. It just
yes. I remember as a little kid not even being able to go to the ATM machine with my mother. I will never forget that. At nighttime, definitely not. On the daytime, my brother and I used to have to turn and watch her back. It was awful. It was, and we loved the city. We loved it. I loved it with all my heart. Yeah. Then when that renaissance did happen, it was like, wow, this is the New York my grandfather told me be proud to be from.
It's the greatest city in the world. Yeah,
such a great city. Nowhere else, folks, matches New York when New York is good.
Oh, and it's good, man.
Ruined it.
Yeah,
it's awful. It's heartbreaking to me. I love my city. It's just too.
Yeah, no, I know.
City anymore. It's unrecognizable.
I know. Yeah, I'll be up there for the weekend and a week from this weekend, and I even just then, I want to enjoy it, but gosh, when we were there around this time last year, I was shocked. I hadn't been there, Rich, and it's probably been about 7, 8, 10 years. I haven't been in New York, and dude, I was like, I can't even recognize this place. It's just
tragic.
So sad. All right, what else we got? We're all getting all this sad, and so we're gonna start breaking out our rum and start singing songs.
I know, right?
Kenneth, do you both feel that this latest development of the legacy media's revealed gaslighting regarding Biden's dementia will put the final nails in their respective coffin?
Whew. I could say I certainly hope so. I don't know, though, because this is one thing that is different about this time. Republicans and even independents, most independents, nobody really believes corporate media is impartial anymore. Right. There is a chunk, however, of the Democratic Party that is right now, as we speak, wrestling with the reality that they are very clearly easily duped by the media because the media favors their party. And yes, you're just going to have partisans, but you will have those free thinkers out there still who say, man, they lied to me. I wonder what else they lied to me.
What else are they lying about?
Yeah. And it's like, once you get that red pill, man, it's like, you can't unsee it. And I want to just, I'll say I think what the best course of action here is not to try to bring back the credibility of an industry that has shot it to hell.
Yeah.
We should just admittedly or we should drop the pretenses. We should drop the pretentious nonsense and just admit this is party media like it was in the beginning of the Republic. We all have a view. We're trying to push that view, and we are trying to influence you. We want you to agree with our point of view. Now decide. Instead, we have a lie. It's a lie. That we're operating under a lie. They're not
Right.
impartial. They're not credible. They're not professional. They're not even mature.
Right.
They're not even
Right.
mature, Steve. They're some
No,
of the most
not at
immature simpletons in the world. I don't know if you
Yeah.
saw the clip with Tucker answering questions the other day. I
With
mean,
that Australian reporter.
he eviscerated her. He was like, "I'd like to think you're not an idiot, but I think you just answered the question for me." Like, these are who they are. That they're not smart,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
I think that I'm not sure how much more damage can be done to media's credibility, but here in the case of this debate, what really is different, and just to be rapid, come full circle to punch that point home, is that it has to do with them being lied to, and they have no choice but to come to grips with it.
Yep. No, it's a brilliant answer. I think that's absolutely right on. What Rich said is so key. The original media, late 18th century into the 19th century, was, for lack of a better term, a very overtly partisan media.
Overtly.
Here,
Yep.
where we are we're on the border of Maryland and Cecil County. There were two newspapers, Cecil County Whig and the Cecil County Democrat. They did not have this fact value dichotomy where we just deal with facts, CNN, right? Yeah. We don't, they recognize that facts fit in with your values. And so they often use, Rich, it's kind of cool. They often use the first person plural. We believe, or we hold, right?
Yes.
So they really wanted you to come into understanding the world through their worldview. They made no bones about it. They made it clear we're coming at it from this political angle, just like Rush Limbaugh used to do, right? But when you come at the world from this angle, it suddenly makes sense. It's like what C.S. Lewis said about the sun. I'm not saying our politics is like this. He said, I believe in God the same way I believe in the sun, not because I can see it, but by it, I see everything else. You know, so you open up this worldview and all of a sudden the world starts to make sense. And then in the early 20th century, they bought into this notion of scientific rationalism, that they could be this, objective, disinterested observer of events. So the reporter is never part of the story. They always talk in the third person passive. And Rich nailed it. They continue to try to put on that veneer of objectivity while at the same time pushing radical partisan politics.
It's just ridiculous. I mean, again, I could say, let's just drop the pretenses.
Right, exactly. Just drop the pretenses. Be MSNBC. Live it, love it, be left wing. It's okay. Yeah.
Don't insult our intelligence anymore.
Exactly.
Don't insult their intelligence, pretending like you're, so you're something you're not. And that goes, by the way, for also several in right-wing media. Fox News, of course, super offender of this. Come on. Fair and balanced. Yeah, right.
Yeah, right.
I mean,
right.
It would have been more fair to say you're balancing out the left. That's it. And just be real.
That's it.
Because you're not fair and balanced.
Or fair and balanced. We're going to give the establishment the word it needs. We'll have Lindsey Graham on every night talking. Oh, all right. If that's fair and balanced, so forget it. Count me up.
I wish we would go back to that. I really do. I think it would be more productive for society.
And I think we are. I think that's where it is going. That's just the nature of curated content. I just think that's where people are going. You got a couple of more for Rich. What do we got? Connie, if they sentence Trump to jailhouse arrest, do you think that will destroy his polling with the normies, since it did go down some after the verdict?
I would disagree with that. I don't believe it did go down after the verdict. The one poll that started that entire narrative was a sampling error. I mean, that was statistical noise. For movement, for instance, the St. Anselm College poll in New Hampshire, before the verdict, before the debate, Biden was leading by 10. Now in this new poll, New Hampshire is a blue state now. Come on, let's get real. Yeah, it is a competitive state, but it's a blue state. Mm-hmm. Now Trump's up by 2. That is movement. Yeah. So to go from being tied to Biden +1, Biden +2, I just don't see it. If you look at the aggregate on Real Clear Politics, it actually got slightly better for Trump in the aggregate after the verdict. And I don't think if they slap like an ankle bracelet on him, or they sentence him to jail, but they defer it even, or they just outright send him to Rikers Island, which I'm not sure how they would logistically do. But let's just say that, they did. I am really now starting to almost 100% wholeheartedly subscribe to the fact that would backfire on them spectacularly.
Yeah.
And he would become a Nelson Mandela-like figure, and he
Yeah.
would win from a jail cell. I really do think that. Absolutely.
Yeah, or even Lula in Brazil. I mean, it's just
Yes.
it's the track record of locking up a candidate doesn't tend to work in favor of those locking them up.
Yeah. And
Thanks,
so
Connie.
we haven't had that situation in our own country, but we have
Yeah.
certainly had other examples, two of which are huge examples that you just mentioned. Now,
Yeah.
it appears all signs indicate here that that is the temperament, that's the environment that the voters are creating right now. You take them
Right.
out, we'll vote for them in jail. I swear to God, I will. Like that is
Yep.
the
Yeah.
way it's coming across. And I think I subscribe to it at this point because
Yeah.
what would hurt him?
No.
What has happened to him over the last year is incredible, and yet it has not. It has not stopped him.
It seems to have
It's
even
great.
just made him stronger, just like what you're saying, the blowback, the non-white working class feeling that they can relate to him more. I mean, it's solidified his support. The MAGA crowd is more energized than ever. Like you say, low propensity voters, more energized than ever to come out and vote. I mean, it's not working. It's not working the way they thought. That's for sure.
And you just said that, by the way, that's very important. A year ago plus, Trump was doing very well, but he was doing well because of the low to no propensity voter. I did not vote in 2020. I've never voted before in my life. This is the first time in my lifetime that those are benefiting a Republican presidential candidate. Usually does a Democratic candidate. So that's in and of itself significant, but that is now even gone because when you tighten the likely voter screen a year or so ago more, that would benefit Biden. That advantage for Biden is gone because this is hyped up. So many of those people, and you watch, some pollsters will screen them out. Steve, watch. They will say, well, they don't have a vote history. I'm getting rid of them. They'll do it. And I guarantee you those people are going to vote.
Dang, absolutely. Again, we saw something just like in France last Saturday. They're one of their biggest turnouts ever. One of their biggest turn. You nailed it. For the first time, I think you said it. You're actually seeing where the greater the turnout, the better for the Republican.
Yes.
Is that great? Yeah.
That's
again,
right.
it's the same thing with France. The bigger the turnout, because again, of these low propensity, no propensity voters, the Brexit voter in Britain, the more they come out, the more they're voting Le Pen, the more they're voting National Rally. They've had it with the politics of the establishment. They've just had it.
Yeah. And I think that this is a reckoning. I sent that to you the other day, that article from Bloomberg. I think this is a reckoning, and the political class, whether it's foreign or domestic, refuses to come to, to accept the reality that their governing system is leaving people behind.
Yeah.
Their governing system is not representative anymore of the body politic, and they just will not evolve. So they will be forced to, one way or the other. I mean, it's that simple.
It's just that simple. Yeah, that they will either adjust or they will demise. It'll be one.
Yes, they
will go the way of the dodo.
It doesn't work this way forever, and they should know that. Just be, any student of history knows that you cannot continue and maintain a status quo that is illegitimate or ineffective. You just
the Tories are about to find that out on Thursday, ironically, on Independence Day of all days.
Perfect example of I would say a canary in the coal mine for conservatives. This is what will happen to you if you run out there promising the world and not delivering when Trump gets back into office, because you have one lame ass excuse after another. And by the way, voters aren't stupid. He is running. Let me just look at last glance. If you compare just Trump versus Biden, okay, he is running about 5 points ahead of the Republican generic Republican candidate for Congress. And that's been remarkably consistent. He's polling them.
The question we have right there is perfect. This is so Michael,
how
much impact will the high Trump numbers work down ballot races?
I think Republicans have some work to do before they can maximize that impact. For instance, on abortion, which you brought up before, which Dr. Steve folks brought up before, Trump's answer was flawless on abortion. They're going to get baited on all these stupid stuff. There's a lot of high, or I would say, there are a lot of low propensity but high turnout people when it comes to Trump being on the ticket that you could benefit from, but they don't hold the exact same positions, many of them, that the Republican Party does, especially not the establishment Republican Party, whom they no longer trust either. So I think they have work to do. I think he could have huge and positive impact on down ballot races. I don't see a single state where Donald Trump, you could point to Donald Trump and say, he's going to hurt so-and-so in that Senate race. He's going to hurt this. How many times? It's the first time we've ever not been able to do that. In 2016, very easy. He's going to hurt Mark Kirk. He's going to hurt Kelly Ayotte. He's going to hurt Pat Toomey. He's going to hurt blah, 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 down the line. At the end of the day, didn't he help those people? But in 2020, they made the same case. Then the Georgia runoff. This is all Trump's fault, right? On and on. Not a single state can they point to this time and say, because Donald Trump is the nominee, it's going to drag the down ballot races down. It's the exact opposite, and he is outpolling them. And it's not just the margin, it's the level of support that he has. So Trump's level is higher. It's not just that he's leading Biden by a greater margin than Republicans are leading Democrats. His level of support is 5 points at least higher. Wow. It's significant. Wow. And it's been like this for months.
Months. Yep. All right, couple of more, and we will let Rich go. David, how much of the electorate knows what a neocon is? How much know about the divide between establishment, populist Republicans? How small a percentage of voters are political geeks?
Yeah. Oh, I think there are 3 different questions there, right?
Yeah. I've seen a couple
the
there.
neocon thing, I would say, is probably in the neighborhood of like 20 to 33% who could accurately, in some way, articulate what a neocon is or accurately describe what a neocon is. And for those who don't know, a neocon is a fake Republican who hid in the Republican Party because of the era of Reagan. They were commies back in the day. Bill Kristol's, obviously an infamous neocon. His daddy started. He was one of the founding fathers of that movement, and his name was Irving Kristol. He was a freaking left-wing communist, and he had more aggressive views on foreign policy than other leftists did. So being abandoned by their party, they sought refuge in an administration that was a more aggressive foreign policy administration, aka Ronald Reagan. And he had the ABCs, right? He had his, anything but communism as his slogan. So he would let these people in because they would, basically pledge to put their domestic ideas aside in favor of helping him with the foreign policy. And what neocons want is to use the primacy of U.S. power to shape the world in our image. They want to use military might to make the world, bring them to heel and make them more like us. It's a garbage theory. It's a garbage international relations theory. It's not viable. It's not the real world, but unfortunately we have to contend with them. I think probably, and because of Republicans, you're looking in the neighborhood of a quarter to a third who could really identify truly what that is, because Republicans are more informed about stuff like this. And that's just the truth. And then how small of, wait a minute. What? How much?
How the divide between the establishment, about how much know about this divide between the people and the political class?
That's a really good question. We're trying to figure that out right now. I think it's a huge amount, just from what some of the answers are that we get for unrelated questions, or they're related, but they're just not directly aimed at asking people that. We just introduced the populism index. This is the second month we're running it. And we just ask people whether or not they identify as a populist or not. And then we're looking at who those people are. And by the way, the I don't knows are very, very interesting, because of course they don't not know, right? They just are, they're just saying that for obvious reasons. And then how small of a percentage of voters are political geeks? Man, I'd have to get back to you on that, but I probably could find you, something that comes close to answering that question. I want to say it's probably pretty small, Dr. Turley, maybe like 2% that are real, true political geeks. Small. Yeah.
Yeah, who eat, sleep, drink this stuff. I mean, yeah,
Yeah.
who tune in at 9 o'clock live streams and so forth. Yeah, I
Yeah.
think it's very, very small, but we love all of you. We love all of you. So one more for Rich.
Sure, sure.
Anita, recent reports indicate that there's not enough time to
Yeah.
replace Joe Biden. Is that true? Yeah. What is your view, Rich? You were talking a little bit about this on your live stream
It is
yesterday.
incredibly difficult to replace Joe Biden at this time. When Lyndon Johnson was replaced, he backed away. He gave up. It was March 31st. Things have even
Mm,
changed. State laws have even changed since then. I think, look, I think, Steve, they would bend every law in the RNC to get
right,
what they want. You know,
right.
the problem of those state laws, and there is probably, and I don't want to give them any ideas, although it's a worse idea even. The only way to get around the problems that exist with replacing Joe Biden is to use Kamala Harris. And
Yeah.
that would cause friction within the party. If you
Yeah.
leapfrog her, it'll cause friction within the party. There is just no good solution here. You took away forcibly, basically, you took away your president's ability to run for reelection, and you replaced him with, an even worse choice. I mean,
Yeah.
I really do believe that. We've pulled Whitmer, we've pulled Newsom. Newsom and Harris are from two different dueling factions in the
With
California.
inside California. Yeah, that's the crazy thing. Yeah.
On and on about this. It's not just one issue. There are many issues, and this is why Kamala partially helps with this problem. You just told tens and tens and tens, hundreds, millions of people that their vote in the primary doesn't
Yep.
matter.
Doesn't
You
matter.
know,
No.
doesn't matter. And the optics of that alone, not adding everything else we just brought to bear, are way, way worse than anything we've seen in a modern presidential election. And then there's that tiny little window, for folks, for states to get you on the ballot because they are the Democratic Party. They'll probably be able to bend some elbows. But I'll tell you right now, if someone replaces Joe Biden, or really they tried to do that, that person would not appear on at least Ohio.
Right.
That's not happening.
Right.
Changing the new law. New York would be difficult. New York is
Right.
extremely difficult to deal with this small little window of time, and to drop Biden after I mean, a lot of these states, folks, to be on the ballot, you're actually qualifying by getting a certain amount of the vote in
Mhm.
different elections, prior elections, and or primaries. And you just can't say you did that when it was somebody else's top of the ticket.
Right.
It's tough.
Couldn't agree more. Rich, you're the best, man. And that's why, gang, you've got to join peoplespundit.locals.com. Click on that link below. It's the best political and data analysis out there, bar none. Rich is my go-to guy for the latest polling landscape.
Appreciate
And
that,
you'll
brother.
you got it, man. You deserve it. You get the exact same info I get every day by just going to peoplespundit.locals.com. It's again, it's a resource like no other. Rich, we are on the front lines of some extraordinary times, and I honestly cannot think of anyone I'd rather have on those front lines than you, my friend. You're the best.
I appreciate that. Thanks for having me on, as always. Anytime you need me to come back, I'm here for you.
Oh, we'd love that. And have a blessed 4th of July with your wonderful family. We were chatting a little bit before the live stream, and your pool. I hope you
Going
have
to pick up my fireworks haul tomorrow. It's going to be a good time. We're going to try to take it easy, but just have a blast and celebrate. I mean, it could have been a lot worse, folks. The court 2 weeks in a row handed down just country saving opinions. There's a lot to celebrate this year. Just do it smart and do it safe, and
amen.
We'll see you on the other side of it.
Love you, Rich. Thanks so much, man. God bless.
Anytime,
Thanks,
brother.
everybody, for being with us.